Back in May, I took a shot at trying to project the Madden ratings for the incoming Arizona Cardinals rookies. And now that the ratings for Madden 22 have been released, let's see how I did. So in late May, I published a video in which I used pro day numbers and some research that other people have done into how those numbers translate into Madden ratings, as well as comparisons to rookies in previous years based on position and the round in which they were drafted. And I tried to project the ratings that I thought the Arizona Cardinals incoming rookies would have. And now we get to see how I did. So let's look at the players. First up is linebacker Zaven Collins. Now, Collins was probably one of the better projections I made. Each of the stats that I attempted to project for Collins were within 1 point of the actual ratings that Madden assigned. I had him projected overall as a 74, but as you see, his overall rating actually ended up being 73. But again, his speed, acceleration, strength, agility, jump, and change of direction all were rated within 1 point of what I had projected. This was definitely the closest I came on any of the ratings in terms of hitting all of the numbers. Next up is wide receiver Rondale Moore. I had projected that Rondale Moore's overall rating would be 73, but the actual rating ended up being 71. And I think the difference between my projected rating and the actual rating had a lot to do with things like speed, acceleration, and change of direction, where I thought Moore's pro day numbers and his college tape warranted higher ratings than what Madden actually ended up giving him. Based on comparison with other players in terms of his 40 time and other measurements, I thought he deserved to have a speed rating of 97, an acceleration of 95, and a change of direction of 94. But the folks at Madden saw it differently, and they gave him a 94, 91, and 91 respectively. Overall, I'm still not too far off in terms of the overall rating, but clearly I'm not as close as I was on Zaven Collins. The next player we're going to look at is cornerback Marco Wilson. In my original projections, I had Marco Wilson as a 69 overall, with high marks in speed, acceleration, strength, agility, jumping, and change of direction, and this was in large part due to the fact that he had a tremendous pro day. Some of his numbers, particularly his vertical jump, were exceptional. In fact, if you watch my videos where I do some NFL comps for Marco Wilson, you'll see that I had a hard time finding anyone who had a vertical jump that measured comparably to his. And overall, Madden did rate him as a pretty good athlete for the position, with a speed of 92, an acceleration of 91, jump of 94. But his overall rating of 65 was 4 points lower than what I had projected. So clearly I was more optimistic about Wilson than the folks at EA Sports were. I do think they undersold the kind of athlete he is in their ratings, but I think other things like awareness, man coverage, zone coverage probably brought that rating down quite a bit. Next up is edge rusher Victor Dimukeje. Right off the bat, I'll tell you Dimukeje was one of my biggest misses in terms of overall rating. I had projected him as a 66 overall, but he ended up coming in at a 61. But with that said, I didn't fare too badly on some of the specific athletic ratings. I was only 2 off in terms of speed, I was 3 off in terms of acceleration, but only 1 off in terms of strength. I hit agility right on the nose, was 1 off in terms of jump, and 2 off in terms of change of direction. The big difference in overall probably had more to do with things like awareness, finesse moves, power moves, some of the things that matter for pass rushers. So while I did a reasonable job in terms of some of the specific athletic traits, I probably should have done a better job of comparing him to other pass rushers selected in the 6th round. The next player we're going to look at is cornerback Tay Gowan. Now, Gowan is another one of my bigger misses. I had him projected as a 67 overall. Madden came in at a 63 overall. Though, like Dimukeje, I came in fairly close on some of the athletic traits. I was a couple points off on speed, but I was right on with acceleration. I was a bit off on strength, but within 1 on agility, within 2 on jump, and a little bit off on change of direction. And again, overall, I erred on the side of being too optimistic compared to the Madden raters. Now, some of this probably has to do with the fact that I'm a Cardinals fan, but I also think some of it has to do with the fact that I do think Gowan is going to perform better than a typical 6th round draft pick. As I've talked about multiple times before in videos, and as others have discussed, he was projected to go earlier in the draft. And I think he's going to be a player who ends up being a good starter in this league when he gets that shot. But ultimately, I did miss the mark in terms of trying to project how Madden would rate Gowan. Next on the list is safety James Wiggins. Aside from Zaven Collins, Wiggins was probably my best projection. The overall rating that I projected of 66 was 1 point off from his actual rating of 65. I hit speed perfectly with 91. I was over on acceleration, also a good bit over on strength. I was also over on agility, but I hit jump right on the number and again was over on change of direction. Altogether, this was one of my better projections. And the last player on the list is center Michal Menet. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have much to go with in terms of testing numbers for Menet. The only real number I had to work with was his bench reps, and I projected his strength accurately based on that at 80. So because I didn't have much in terms of pro day numbers to work with, I based his projection primarily on player comps of other rookie centers who were drafted in roughly the same range as Menet. And as you can see, the results were actually quite accurate. I projected a rating of 59 and he ended up with a rating of 58. I enjoyed making these projections back in May, and it was fun looking back to see how I did. It was a learning process, and there's some things I'm going to do differently moving forward. In fact, I did a second video back in May for the Atlanta Falcons, projecting their rookies. And tweaking my methods a little bit, I actually was much more accurate on those projections. In projecting the Falcons rookies, there were a few players whose overalls I hit right on the number, and all of the players were within 3 points. So I think if I use those methods moving forward, I'm going to be much more accurate, and I look forward to trying this next year. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Cardinal Rule.